Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Devils United. We're back with another player profile episode, and I know this is the one that everyone's been looking forward to. Amad Diallo at Sunderland, and we've got Dave. How are you doing, Dave?
Yeah, very well, thanks. Yeah, thank you for having me along, and hopefully give you a bit of info about how we got on last season.
I look forward to hearing it. I'll say hi to the people who's in the chat, and then we'll get going with the show. Good evening, Reese. Hope you're well. Thanks for coming in. He said, "Is this the way to Amad Diallo?" That's a pretty catchy chant, to be honest. If we was to sing that. Hey there, Niall. Thanks for coming in. Hope you are well. Hey there, Rather. Thanks for coming in. Hope you are well. He called me Messina because I'm a big fan of Paulinia from Fulham. I liked him because I watch a lot of sporting, so I've watched him from them days. Hey there, Sean. Thanks for coming in. Hope you are well. Hey there, Cheese Boy 100. Hope you're well. Thanks for coming in. And hey there, Paul. Thanks for coming in. Hope you are well. There is already some questions in the chat. We will get into them a little bit later on. So we'll talk about Amad's season. I just wanted to get a picture from yourself of how his season went, because according what a lot of people have said is he's had a fantastic season. He's really rocked this Sunderland side.
Yeah, massively. Maybe it's took a couple of games to settle in, as you would expect. But we've had quite a lot of turmoil at Sunderland this year, not having a centre forward available for a lot of it. Ellis Sims being recalled at Everton, Ross Stewart out with long-term injuries. So Tony Mowbray, credit to him, just a big up Sunderland a little bit, and how we've done. Had to find different ways of scoring goals without main centre forwards really, and Amad definitely stepped up the plate, scoring the spearhead of most of our good things going forward. Had a little bit of a spell, probably 2/3 into the season. Kind of, maybe he's a little bit of a burnout. We got to remember he's 19, 20-year-old. And then other than that, yeah, finished like a steam train. Almost had us dreaming of back-to-back Wembley trips. Wasn't quite meant to be, but yeah, another loan player that Sunderland fans have fallen in love with, and unfortunately, certainly in the immediate future, we're probably not going to get back. But who knows? Football's a funny old game.
Yeah, absolutely. Just want to say thank you so much to United Road for the super chat. Really, really means a lot. Good to see you. Yeah, with Amad, because I actually seen him in numerous of different positions this season. I've seen him in the 10. I've seen him out wide. Where is his best position for you?
I think for the level that he was at, I think he could have played left back if he had to. He was that good. Yeah, anywhere across the front four. He was good at getting in between the lines. He was very, very good at gliding past a fullback. Yeah, I didn't really see a weakness in his attacking play, to be honest. So I think probably from the right hand side as his starting position, but yeah, it's debatable. He formed a really good partnership with Patrick Roberts, and Patrick Roberts was probably more out on the right and Amad slightly further infield. But yeah, equally adaptable to any of the front four positions, I think.
Yeah, because someone asked me beforehand, what do you think is the best position for Amad? But from what I've watched of Amad, I've always said the right-hand side, because I think he does come really alive in that right-hand side. And then when I seen another position for Sunderland, I was a bit like, oh, a number 10. Like, I would never have expected to put Amad Diallo in that 10th role. And that game was it against Millwall, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, I believe it was. I think the one thing that came to prominence towards the end of the season for Amad Diallo was his intelligence, his footballing intelligence was fantastic. You could see that the raw skill was there on the ball and running with the ball. He's very natural, very easy. But yeah, especially Luton second half of the first leg of the playoffs, he started walking, and I'm not comparing him to it by no stretch of the imagination, but the best footballer I've ever seen on a football pitch who glided through the game was Zinedine Zidane. I'm 37, so Zidane, he almost used to jog through a football game, and that second half against Luton in such a big game as well. Amad was phenomenal. Maybe the only guilty thing that we had in that first leg was we probably should have won more than 2-1, and maybe would have had more of a chance of getting to Wembley. But yeah, that second half against Luton in the semi-final, he was phenomenal.
Just wanted to say hello to a couple more people in the chat as well. Hey there, Torsen. Thanks for coming in. Hope you are well. And hey there, Static. Thank you for coming in. Hope you are well also. In terms of Amad as well, in terms of tracking back, was he great at tracking back, helping out the fullbacks? Because I know there's a lot of wingers who don't really like to do that kind of work, especially at Man United. You don't really have them tracking back type of wingers.
Yeah, it was interesting. So you saying earlier about him, you never really thought about him as a number 10. I think probably when he first started showing signs of life at Sunderland, that first part of the season after he settled in after maybe 4, 5, 6 games, at one point he was pretty much playing as a centre midfielder. He was literally tracking back some of the blocks, and again that has to be massive credit to Tony Mowbray. He understands how the Northeast works, how we have an expectation of off the ball and throwing your body on the line and stuff. And Amad clearly bought into everything he was being told. There was times he was almost running back and playing as a CDM to win the ball and start us off on the attack. And I think for somebody who is clearly as gifted as he is on the ball, to inherit that kind of that mentality, yeah, I suppose you said earlier whether he would fit in that Man United team. It's a different level. It's Championship to Premier League football and stuff. But I genuinely think, like, you look at Anthony, and do I think Amad Diallo is much worse player than Anthony? I genuinely don't think he is, if I'm quite honest. And you guys paid, what, 87 million? It's crazy.
I must be honest, I have been very critical of Anthony myself this season, just because even if you took away the price tag, I just don't think he's been what you'd hope to be, especially when you've had this so much hype and so many people wanting him to come, and I just don't think he really set it on fire. I know he's had some great goals, but I look at what I've watched of Amad, I've seen qualities of Amad myself, and I think for me, I'm not going to compare him to the player I'm going to mention, but you look at the likes of like David Beckham, where he went to Preston North End on loan to build up his physicality, come back into Manchester United. He was absolutely fantastic, and I think with Amad, is before he went on loan, because he had Rangers, I don't think it worked out for him, and I think he really needed that test, because I think Serie A is completely different to coming into the Premier League and coming into the Championship, and I think he needed that bit of an intensity.
Yeah, definitely. And I think as the season's gone on, I think the first 4 or 5 games while he was acclimatising to what the Championship was about and what Sunderland was about, but I think probably me and a lot of fans, if we take ourselves back and forget how much we've fallen in love with Amad, we probably would have been worried about the physicality aspect of it. However, as the season develops, and whether that's through great coaching from Tony Mowbray and the coaches, or whether it's Amad's natural intelligence, he almost didn't have to get himself into a physical battle. He avoided that because he is quite a slight figure. He's not the strongest boy in the world. But the simple fact of the matter is, if nobody can get close to you, you don't have to be that strong. And that's what we found as the season went on.
Yeah, because Amad is a very pacey type of player, and I think when you've got that pace on you, it's one of them where the defenders can never catch you, and you're going to be winning at the end of the day. You're either going to get a foul, or you're going to cut in and you're going to score or assist. And I think I think for me, with Amad, from what I've seen, he really likes to cut into the box, doesn't he?
Yeah, massively. Yeah, I could wax lyrical about how good that left foot is. I think it was the last game of the season against Preston, and we needed to win our game, but also we needed a couple of results to go our way. Being a pretty open game against Preston, although I'd say we shaded the first half, and all of a sudden ball comes out. Amad had a couple of half chances and created something as well, and the ball just came out to him, and out of nowhere, nobody probably expected a goal from that situation. The ball comes out the edge of the box, and you've not quite seen anyone hit a ball so sweetly in your life. And yeah, 1-0 changes the game, and we got the result and got into the playoffs by the skin of our teeth. But yeah, I think that's the one thing we can safely say with Amad Diallo, and since he was the one capable of a little bit of magic from absolutely nowhere. And then, like I say, when you throw in the mentality that he seems to have developed at Sunderland of wanting to win the ball back and do the defensive and the ugly side of the game, I genuinely think there's a great player there.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. His first goal for Man United, he scored a header in the Europa League. Did he score any or many headed goals for Sunderland as well?
That is testing my memory, but I'd be, to be honest, and I'm probably being like rose tinted glasses on, but I'd be very surprised if he hadn't just scored from outside the box every time he scored for us, which was double figures for the season. But yeah, I don't recall anything with his head. He was playing a lot deeper for us. But yeah, well, it wouldn't surprise me if he could head the ball. As a Sunderland fan, I could probably tell you that he can do everything because we just love him that much.
I just wanted as well, just before I do go into the chat, I'll just say hello to our number, thanks for coming in, hope you are well. And hey there to Chris, thanks for coming in, hope you are well. I just wanted to speak a little bit about Sunderland, about their season as well, because I think for me, a lot of people didn't expect Sunderland to finish where they did really in the Championship.
No, so as you've come across me, I do a podcast with a couple of friends, called What the Folk. We get the opportunity to speak about, well, this season's been all about positivity, and we have had a couple of years in League One where there wasn't much positivity put that way. There wasn't much good football. It was all about trying to get out of division without a style and an identity. And I think that's something we've inherited. We've got a style of play. It's fun, it's youthful, it's exuberant, and yeah, we've had a really good season. I predicted before the season that we would finish about 10th, but we'd also have a good flirt with the playoffs. One of the lads said that we would finish 5th and get in the playoffs. We finished 6th, and yeah, you can't be that disappointed when you've come up from League One after a good few years of suffering. League One is an awful place. They say the Championship's hard to get out of. League One, once you're dragged into that level, and the way the football's played, it's very strong, it's very physical, it's very boring, old-fashioned football without being disrespectful to anyone. And you get dragged into that. So to have escaped that, and then first season go and play football, we often talk amongst ourselves about how there's been a bit of a scandal this year, because I reckon Sunderland, in terms of team goals, probably should have won 1, 2, and 3 in the goal of the season competition, and we didn't even get nominated for them.
Wow.
Yeah, honestly, there's a goal, if anyone gets the opportunity, that we scored against Reading, and yeah, you could say Reading's defensively weren't great for that goal, but it has come from goalkeeper to Jack Clark out on the left wing, and we've scored, and it was just unbelievable. The weight of passes, the the creation, the movement. It was phenomenal, and that's what Sunderland's been about this year, playing really nice football, but also not just playing really nice football. We've also won games, and as I said earlier, without centre forwards to get on the end of people like Amad and Jack Clark and Patrick Roberts' creativity, we still managed to finish sixth in our first season in the Championship. So expectation will be different next year, but it's been a very fun ride this year, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm. What I've done as well, I did find the goal, what you've mentioned. I put it into the live chat for you, so people can check out the goal. Was it the third goal, if I'm not
It was,
mistaken?
yeah. Yeah, it was,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I posted the third goal in, so if you have the chance, go and check the goal out, what Dave has mentioned. And I think for me itself, with the Championship, it's been a very weird season, as in all the teams you expect to do well don't do well, and then there's been a couple of underdogs this season.
Yeah, definitely. It's I remember when Sunderland got promoted from League One. Some of the clubs in there were like, you know, you've got Sheffield Wednesday, you've got Portsmouth, you've got, I mean, obviously Derby are down there now, Charlton Athletic. They've all been really, really high profile clubs to it, close to the Premier League in recent years. And next year, Championship, there's going to be a lot in there again. There's the likes of Watford, there's Sunderland, there's Southampton come down, there's Leeds come down. It's the teams on paper are fantastic, but yeah, there was a lot last year who were probably expected to do better. The likes of Watford, obviously Burnley and Sheffield United have. Burnley's achievement last season was fantastic. For getting a new manager in, for getting 14 new players through the door, were absolutely brilliant. And I think one thing that we'll be forgetting about from last season was the likes of QPR and Reading for the first 3 months of the season were like first and second in the league, and of course Reading have been relegated. It was a crazy funny season really. Luckily, Sunderland for probably 75% of the season were consistent, and that's how we managed to sneak in. But yeah, it's a funny old league.
Yeah, it is very strange, for sure, especially this season. I'm going to ask you two more questions before, obviously, I do go into the live chat questions. One, I was speaking to a Birmingham fan before he before talking about Hannibal. And he was praising Sunderland, and you've recently signed Joel Bellingham, and he was saying about great development with the youth. Have you noticed that yourself with the youth players at Sunderland?
Yeah, massively. I think our average age for the season last year was just shy of 23-year-old. And again, when you throw the adversity in, I keep repeating myself, but without the centre forward and without the natural people in the positions, last probably 8-10 games of the season, we were playing without a recognised centre half. We were playing three at the back, one of which is a traditional centre midfielder, one of which is a traditional right back, and we were still eking out results and playing good football at the same time. So yeah, there's and the signs that we're getting, of course, they're not going to say anything. But the likes of Joe Bellingham, we just signed a guy who being released from Benfica's second team. He's only 19-year-old. Everyone who comes through the door seems to go like, this is the place to come and play attractive football, learn our trade, hopefully get back in the Premier League with Sunderland. But if not, it gives us a great stepping stone for and it would be great for Sunderland as a club, because the likes of Manchester United, who want to try and play attractive football, the likes of Manchester City, without offending anyone, the likes of Liverpool, all these guys who are aspiring to play really fluid attacking football, if they can see youngsters who are on the verge of the first team have a pathway to go and play regular minutes at Sunderland, that'll benefit us, apart from the fact that we fall in love with loan players who we're never going to get back, unfortunately. But yeah, to find that natural pathway to play a style of football that when they go back to their parent clubs, they have an understanding of how to play the game, then yeah, I think it works for everyone.
Yeah, And the final question I was going to ask about Amad as well before I go into the chat, because he was actually also linked to go to Birmingham last January, but it didn't happen. I think because they ended up getting Mengi instead, and so Amad went to Rangers. Do you think Amad would have had that same impact in the Birmingham squad for you as he has had in the Sunderland squad?
It wouldn't have surprised me if the cream had rose to the top, as they would say, and he would have had a very positive impact. I don't think, and no disrespect to Birmingham, but I don't think he would have had the. I think it would have been purely as an individual, as opposed to Sunderland, where he has been massively part of a team and still stood out. I think with Birmingham, his natural ability would have rose to the top. However, I think it would have been a case of maybe 10 people doing horrible, ugly, dirty work and then just hoping Amad pulls something brilliant out the bag every week, which, as we've seen, he's obviously more than capable of. But I think he'd have probably done slightly better at Sunderland than if he went to Birmingham on his own.
Absolutely, yeah. I was thinking the same based off how Birmingham played, really, and they haven't been the best of teams over in the last so many years either, especially with the current ownership situation too. So, hey there, Luca. I'm well, thank you. Thanks for coming into the chat. I've got a few questions. So we will ask Reese's first question. So we've already discussed about Amad's first season. He said, "Would you take it back for a second year or best look elsewhere?" And what do you think Amad's best game was?
Absolutely no brainer. We would take him back in a heartbeat. I'm sure the hierarchy at Sunderland would echo them sentiments. It's probably one of those where we realise he's outgrown us, unfortunately. Had we have snuck into the Premier League, there might have been half a chance that he'd, if United thought he wasn't ready for you guys, we might have had a half a chance of keeping him in the Premier League. And in terms of his best game, listen, there's so many, but I personally will remember that second half against Luton. It's only 45 minutes, but he was here, there, everywhere. Looked as though he would carve a hole into Luton's defence, left, right, and centre. And as we've realised, Luton are a big, strong, physical team. Obviously, playing Premier League football next year, so no mugs. Thoroughly deserved their promotion. And he at times made them look a little bit silly. So yeah, I'd go for that second half against Luton personally.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing Luton myself in the Premier League, seeing how they get on as well. Just a bit off topic, how do you think they will do in the Premier League?
It's one of them where it's like a head and heart moment. My head tells me everything about them, without being disrespectful to Luton, as I try not to be to any opposition fans, apart from maybe Newcastle fans. That's maybe that's maybe ones that I can't defend. But other than that, my head tells me that they're probably on for a worse season than. Luckily, Sunderland lost the record the season after, but Derby went down with record low points. And there's just nothing in my head that makes me think that Luton shouldn't go down with a record low of points. But my heart tells me that there's a togetherness. Rob Edwards is quite a clever manager. I think they're going to get relegated, but maybe they might just surprise the odd team here and there. It's going to be an FA Cup final for them every week, and I hope they enjoy the ride no matter how it goes.
And don't worry about the Newcastle slagging off zone. A lot of people do it here as well. So don't worry about that. Say exactly whatever you want about Newcastle. We do have the odd Newcastle fan coming in, but they're very nice. Question from Niall. What's your thoughts on Ross Stewart, who's nicknamed the Loch Ness Drogba?
Absolutely my favourite player within the Sunderland squad. He's been injured a lot of this year, but I remember seeing him for the first time properly. He'd come from Ross County. He played a League One game against Plymouth and scored a goal pretty much from the halfway line. He ran down the right wing and he just didn't stop running and slotted it in from the right-hand side in the bottom corner. And I just knew right then that Sunderland had a centre forward who we've been screaming out for years, not lazy, was so mobile, was so active. The injuries have killed him a little bit. But yeah, I think he is a Premier League footballer in waiting. Unfortunately for him, if that's how you want to describe it, he is 26-year-old. He's probably not going to get right to the top. But I tell you what, there'll be a lot of bottom half clubs in the Premier League that do a lot worse than a fit Ross Stewart, that's for sure.
I've not heard of Ross Stewart before. Maybe that's just bad of myself. But yeah, I'll have to look at him a lot more as well. Ravi has asked which formation gets the best out of Amad. I know you've used mostly the 4-2-3-1, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, we have, and that has been with a total and utter false nine kind of thing because we haven't had any centre forwards available. I think with Amad, no matter what formation he's in, he's going to be better going forward than he is defensively. Although he has got it in the locker, the more you can free him up to exploit space and stuff like that. So yeah, anywhere across the front four with as least defensive responsibilities as he can get. But yeah, the one thing that we had learned was how intelligent he was as well. So yeah, I don't think he'll do a bad job anywhere across the front line.
I think it's probably a good thing as well if, for instance, Amad was to succeed at Man United for going to a club who uses the 4-2-3-1, because at times when you see a lot of loanee players going to different clubs and they're using something like three at the back and then the full-backs players, wing-backs, you look at it, well, how are they meant to really get into the squad in the future? That's how I look at it in a kind of way. So I know that probably sounds a little bit tight from myself.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Right, there's so many modern formations, but I think with the way he plays, as far up the pitch as he can get, I genuinely think personally as well, coming in from the right, but he is definitely able to play in the number 10 as well. I just hope he gets a chance. I really hope you guys don't let him go, and I hope you give him at least a couple of months to have a go and see what he's about.
I hope so too, to be honest. Hey there, Liam. Thanks for coming in. Hope you are well. A question from Chris. Do you think? I know you've already mentioned it backstage, didn't you, about Amad? If he gets loaned out, it should be a Premier League club. What Premier League clubs do you think would be best for him for his development?
It will be really interesting that, because it's like we just analysed about the whole Birmingham City and Sunderland thing, and I think that's going to be like a similar type of scenario within the Premier League. So I noticed that Everton were linked with them recently, and for as much as Sean Dyche is a good manager and he likes that organisation where everybody off the ball does their ugly work, their dog work, and then from there the flair players go and play. And I think for someone like Amad, if he went to like an Everton, he'd be the one who's expected to get on the ball and create something from nothing. And I think in the Premier League, that's asking too much of one player. In terms of managers who I think could develop him, I hope he doesn't. If he does come back to the Championship, I really hope there's a big enough affinity with the club, which I've no doubt that Amad, judging by the way that he has responded to Sunderland fans and stuff. But I think personally, in terms of a manager who could develop him and try and play football in the right way, even if it isn't successful most weeks, maybe he's like a Burnley. I can see Vincent Kompany trying to teach him to play football in the right way, and obviously it's going to be a bit more competitive in the Premier League. Amad certainly isn't going to get on the ball as much if he's at a Burnley, because I don't think they'll have the possession stats that they've had this year. But yeah, I think that type of manager might just get the best out of them.
One who I was thinking of, I know they haven't got a secure man. I don't think they do have a secure manager as of yet, but I was thinking Crystal Palace could be a great appointment, because Zaha leaving, Eze could potentially be leaving as well, and I think that gives them good opportunities, and it's a mid-table club.
Yeah, definitely. Someone like that. It'd be interesting to see who the manager is and which way they go with it. Again, I think possibly harshly done by, but I think if there was someone like a Patrick Vieira there who'd have brought an Amad on, I think that'd be great for him. I wouldn't necessarily thinking purely of Ahmad's development. I wouldn't necessarily want him to go and play under like a Roy Hodgson or a Sean
No.
Dyche or something like that. I just think that would be negative in the way he tries to play football currently.
Yeah, people in the chat's mentioning Fulham and Brighton as well, which are great shouts, especially Brighton being in the Europa League spot, so they'll have plenty of competition.
Yeah, massively. I think the only problem is because of how good a season they had, will he get the minutes that United probably want him to play? I don't necessarily think they will. I think Brighton are on for an interesting season because the likes of Matoma and stuff like that have had such a good year. Will he have second season syndrome? So I can't see Amad getting the type of minutes that he would as opposed to like a Burnley or a Crystal Palace.
Mm-hmm.
But interesting.
Mm-hmm. Interesting for sure. Radhi has asked, was it 17 goal and assist for Amad at Sunderland?
Off the top of my head, I must admit I'm lagging with that, but yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if it was that type of. I know Jack Clark finished the season with the most goal contribution stats for the season. I think Jack Clark was 23. So yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if Ahmad was about 5 or 6 behind that for definite.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Well, Reese has asked, what did you think of Mowbray appointed as a manager?
Interesting for me. For as much as I never came out and said that I thought he would be a dinosaur and he would be a backward step, I found it really. Sunderland have got this. What's the best way to describe it? This horrible culture of appointing managers in the very short term and not thinking of the 5 or 8 or 10-year plan, which I know is a long time in football now. Like 10 years in football is like 120 years of normal life. And I just thought to myself, I can see him stabilizing us for the season, but I can't see him getting us promoted. I can't see him, if we do get promoted, him being the right type of manager. Listen, fair play. I think probably 3 months into his tenure, I was prepared to say that I was wrong. It will be interesting because there's going to be an expectation of Sunderland next season. There's going to be an expectation that we are up fighting in the top 6 all year. So it'll be interesting to see how Tony Mowbray gets on, because I suspect that he will probably have 3 months of performances and results. And if they don't come in, he's probably going to be at the job centre, unfortunately. And that sounds absolutely crazy considering we finished 6th this year. But yeah, I'm well prepared to say that I was wrong in the initial. I think next season's absolutely huge for Tony Mowbray. So it'll be interesting to see how he gets on.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, and hopefully it's all good for Sunderland. Hopefully for myself, in terms of Amad, I'd like to him to stay, get some minutes, have a bit of competition there, because I'd like to see the way he plays. But just as United Rose said earlier on, I think it will probably be decided there on the pre-season. See how he gets on from there. 10 out of 10 assess him. Hey there as well, Vincent. Thanks for coming in. Hope you are well. With this, we will wrap it up. I really appreciate you coming on, Dave. Thank you so much. And it's been great to hear about Sunderland. I don't know, I said Newcastle. So sorry. Great to hear about Sunderland, and also great to learn a bit more about Amad.
Yeah, massively. It's an absolute pleasure to be asked, and it's nice to hear about other clubs and affiliations with. So I know Sunderland and United. That there is probably a hardcore fan who aren't too appreciative of Sunderland after the season that Man City won the league, and we had a bit of a. Listen, we realised that we were terrible, so we had a bit of a laugh with a bit of a Poznan at the Stadium of Light. But yeah, it's lovely to hear about other clubs, and especially when we fall in love with loan players, and we hope he goes on and puts his best foot forward.
Well, if you do want another loan player for the future, you're more than welcome to have one. We do have plenty of young players, Alanga, Palestra, Charlie McNeil. I think he could be a great shout if you need a number 9.
Definitely, yeah. I tell you what, I'd love a season of Anthony Alanga. I wouldn't. I think he had a great start at United, and it's a shame to see. Demise is a strong word to say for United, but obviously trying to hit the dizzy heights that Sir Alex Ferguson had. And there's been so many kids over the recent years that have everything's been pinned on. I know this season a little bit's been put on Garnacho, and it shouldn't be happening. United is such a big club that all your eggs. It goes back to when Moyes was there, who isn't great for Sunderland fans, unfortunately. But it goes back to Januzaj. He had a fantastic first season, and since then, there's always been a kid who comes through, and the expectation is just unfair. It really is unfair for a club of your size to be putting on to a player like that. So I know Alanga, all of a sudden, he was absolutely brilliant for a couple of months. But yeah, if we had half a chance of getting someone like Anthony Alanga for a season, I'd snap your hand off.
Well, fingers crossed. I'd like, as I say, I think it'd be great again. And do another player profile next season. Hopefully, if we get another Sunderland loanee. Ravi's put the link on the channel that I did find you on initially. Would you like to shout out your socials as well, Dave?
Yeah, I must admit I'm terrible at them, but I'm sure on Twitter I'm Dave Lawrence 208. Listen, we're all on the same boat. Sunderland has a whole host of great content. It's probably a little bit of a saturated market, but me and the boys that I do it with, Graham, Brad, and Ross, because there's a few of us, well, me especially, and Graham, who lives up in Scotland, although he gets the most matches. I run a pub with my parents, and I don't get as many matches. So to be able to talk about the game with 4 mates, pretty much sitting in my living room at the end of a Saturday night, it's fantastic. And yeah, it's always worth a listen. We might not be the most sensible all the time, but Sunderland and football's definitely at the heart of most of our content.
Yeah, go and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Fantastic content. You get to see Dave a lot more as well. A lot of people have absolutely loved you tonight as well, Dave. So, and thank you as well, everyone. Thank you as well, Chloe, for coming up to the show. Really means a lot. I will be next live tomorrow with a transfer show, and I do have another player profile next week with Short Tire at its time at Bolton. So you can go and check that out. Everyone, have a lovely evening, or go and subscribe to Dave's channel. Take care, everyone. Bye bye.